Good evening, students. This is Mr. Hollins, and welcome to Biology Chapter 3. I'm going to give you a presentation on Section 3.1, What is Ecology? This presentation starts on page 64 in your book. And in your book, it just says one of the first objectives is to describe the study of ecology. Ecology is the study of the interactions of living things and their interactions with non-living things on our planet. So the study of ecology, that sounds kind of funny because we're studying a studying. So describe the study of ecology, that's our first objective. The second objective in your book says, explain how biotic and abiotic factors influence an ecosystem. Ecosystem, you may have heard that word before. We're going to talk about the ecosystem. You'll hear things like biome, biosphere, habitat, and a lot of different settings for the environment, but we're going to talk about the ecosystem with objective number 2. And next we see the third objective, and this says describe the methods used to study ecology. So these are our objectives for this one section, section 3.1. You have been given an outline of chapter 3, and I set up this skeleton outline for you to follow. If you take a look at it, it looks like this. There we see general biology. What is ecology? And we started filling out studying our living planet. So you should read along in the book and take notes on this outline so that you can remember what it is that you read. At the top of page 65, Science of Ecology. Organisms in the biosphere interact with each other and with their surroundings or environment. The study of these interactions is called ecology. So ecology is defined as the scientific study of interactions among organisms and between organisms and their physical environment. Okay, that's the working definition straight from the book. Organisms respond to their environments and can also change their environments, producing an ever-changing or dynamic biosphere. Your next section on page 65 says ecology and economics. Humans live within the biosphere and depend on ecological processes to provide such essentials as food and drinkable water that can be bought and sold or traded. So as you can see, the biosphere is continually providing resources that we depend on for survival. Levels of organization. Ecologists ask many questions about organisms and their environments. Some ecologists focus on the ecology of individual organisms. Others try to understand how interactions among organisms, including humans, influence our global environment. Ecological studies may focus on levels of organization that include those shown in your book on page 64 and 65. These include individual organisms, like you, or a population, a group of similar species, or on a larger scale, a community, which would be many species interacting with one another. Here in our community, we have humans, pets, birds, and right now there's a black bear down there near Niwot. Additionally, on a larger scale, we have the interactions that we call an ecosystem. An ecosystem includes both biotic and abiotic factors that interact. So we may have all the animals, some people, the weather interacts, how plants interact with the rocks or the soil in a particular area. These interactions of biotic and abiotic, or living and non-living factors, are what we consider an ecosystem. Considering even a larger scope, we have what's called a biome. And a biome is a group of ecosystems that share similar climates and typical organisms. And finally, we consider our planet. Our planet is known as our biosphere. And our entire planet, with all its organisms and physical environments, is simply known as the biosphere. These are the 6 levels of organization for ecology as we study it. And this sounds like a test question to me. What are the 6 levels of organization studied in ecology? Biotic and abiotic factors. So what are biotic and abiotic factors? Well, ecologists use the word environment to refer to all conditions or factors surrounding an organism. Environmental conditions include biotic factors and abiotic factors that are shown in figure 3.2 on page 66 of your book. First, we have biotic factors, and these are the biological influences on organisms. So we have biological factors like how the plants affect animals. They're both living things, plants and animals, and they have an effect on one another. And we also have physical components of an ecosystem. And these are easy to remember because they're non-living and they include things like air, water, and rocks. And that's pretty much about it. When we consider biotic and abiotic factors together, the difference between biotic and abiotic factors may seem clear and simple. But if you think carefully, you'll realize many physical factors can be strongly influenced by the activities of organisms. Bullfrogs hang out, for example, in the soft muck along the shores of ponds. You might think that this muck is strictly part of the physical environment, but because it contains non-living particles in sand and mud. But typical pond muck also contains leaf mold and other decomposing plant materials produced by trees and other plants around the pond. And that material is decomposing because it serves as food for bacteria and fungi that live in the muck. Even certain chemical conditions in the soil around the pond are affected by living organisms. If most trees nearby are pines, their decomposing needles make the soil acidic. If the trees nearby are oaks, the soil will be more alkaline. This kind of dynamic mix of biotic and abiotic factors shapes every environment. Ecological methods. Ecological methods. That's right, I said it. Ecological methods. What methods are used in ecological studies? Some ecologists, like the one in figure 3.3 on page 68 of your book, using measuring tools to assess change in plant and wildlife communities. Others use DNA studies to identify bacteria in marsh mud. Still others use data gathered by satellites to track ocean surface temperatures. But regardless of their tools, modern ecologists use 3 methods in their work: observation, experimentation, and modeling. Let's take observation. Observations are the first step of the scientific method. Scientists may ask simple questions like, how many animals can you count? Or, how can some animals protect their young from predators? Next we have experimentation. Experimentation is often used to test hypotheses. An ecologist may, for example, set up an artificial environment in a laboratory or greenhouse to see how growing plants react to different conditions of temperature, lighting, or carbon dioxide concentrations. And finally, we have modeling. Scientists make models that mimic or behave the same way phenomenon does in nature. Scientists can make models that display the same behavior as changes in climate or predator and prey populations based on food availability. I think there's even a video game, something about predator and prey, elk and wolf populations based on ecological models. So there you have it. That's section 3.1. What is ecology? Ecology is the scientific study of interactions among organisms and between organisms and their physical environment. The biological influences on organisms are called biotic factors. Physical components of an ecosystem are called abiotic factors. And modern ecologists use three methods in their work: observation, experimentation, and modeling. Each of these approaches relies on scientific methodology to guide inquiry. Some of the words in this section include biosphere, population, community, ecology, ecosystem, biome, biotic factor, and abiotic factor. Thank you. This has been Mr. Hollins presenting section 3.1 on ecology. What is ecology? Go to your outlines now. It looks like this, and now you can fill in each one of these sections after listening to this presentation, and don't forget to read your book. Reading is the most important thing you can do for studying each one of these sections.